Hello, I just watched The Times of India has a Saudi woman who's trying to get humanity to contemplate the state of Palestine. And she's noting that the same things keep repeating. Now, A through Z, these are the type of things that have been going since before religious messengers were born. Thank God. Because the sciences were already abridged. For the same reason, we can discern this. In America, for example, in America, James Madison and our founders, plural, they had declassified for us not to refer to any of them as if we know who they were, besides James Madison. But see there are self-added roles, collusion slash S. Even the smartest American, even Judge Napolitano with Judging Freedom, framing our founders, other than they were directed to be, because the experts in the names of the sciences, they were shown that they had, the breaching method showed them how to read principles, reason, because nature itself shows us this too, things about this human factory nature breaching method. That was a torture, extortion, and slavery method that was entrenched and only permitted roles. Collusion slash S against even cells against cells with syntax nature, therefore physically. It was only permitted. Everyone speaking for jobs and group differences. It's tactically ulterior from the individual species body of individual bodies. And we have birds, there are totally distinct species bodies that also have male and female. They have two eyes. There are three distinct identities of hyper invisible but still discernible. Parts of time active that's too great for us to discern. Past that we know is increasingly valued, even though it's gone to an extent. In the future, we know that the value of seasons that are not even here yet, the one that's here now, even if they never come again, even if this one ends, it's only increasing value. Because everything is itself. This is about the hyper invisible but still discernible. We're not supposed to agree on the name, but there are exceptions. The beginning of the beginning of the Quran, for example, it says all that matters. It doesn't say all that matters if somebody eats pork or not. It says all that matters is if someone's going to be honest about what name for scientific value. This is how I interpret it. Per scientific, I interpret interpretation of the Quran. Per scientific value and per interpretation of reality itself. Per time to the scientific value of the identity of nature itself, which we can only discern to an extent. But it comes with that extent, comes with its complete identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that. Three ways equally, increasingly inseparable from the smallest finite detail, distinctly from group details, or efforts, or voicing slash S for humanity. We have only remembered, we have only been allowed to have projected to us the names of the people of the sciences, certain type of victim slash hyper victim, victim predator, hyper predator, a hyper foreign, force checked, hurt, and persuaded. The only people that could operate the names of countries A through Z, to blame other things, others, ourselves for what it cost and for what it keeps, like with the World Trade Center attack. I beg you to get me off the fake conversations about with WFSB about that. Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They also, with their sources in the written Superior Court, Harper Courts, and Connecticut District Court, before and after the World Trade Center attack. They have collusions with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with those courts and their family members and Wethersfield police and their families, and intimate ties with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, first force. Wethersfield police faked conversations with me as a kid, now as an adult. They forced my Saudi ex to collusion with that, with them, with the people, with the Demorals too. And actually, I went to a camp for one year when I was in kindergarten, off of Valleycrest Street. There's a Demoral family on Valleycrest Street involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, and their family members, various natures of federal criminals. These are people at and next to Harper Hospital, with the houses and businesses next to it through time. Involved with the Leahy family that fake transcripts through the mail to other people with fake conversations with me. They have judges, prosecutors, personally and professionally. These courts involved with people named Leahy and Lombardo. A whole bunch of people tied to them have been planting evidence all sides of them, putting kids through the news too. Fake ties to doctors, ones with psychology, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. James Madison, our founders, declassified for us not to entertain them, pretending that others other than James Madison was our founder. He's the one who detailed how and why he and our real founders wanted nothing to do with slavery, against all the right things against women. They detail why and how. If anyone spoke up about any part of those things, let alone them together, they would be sent through the layers of it as our own, as humanity's own. But now, as the human species body of individual bodies and all group differences, as systems all tactical ulterior, from only one that we could use tied to our short words, where it is functional, being hyper invisible but still discernible. To teach about this, it takes a long time to observe and see, let alone when it's trying to be obfuscating. And this is what they stole from us. Nature is showing us. We can observe it. It is functional, how it is hyper invisible but still discernible. Distinctly from how it is invisible but still discernible. English was revealed to be taught this way. The parts of speech are about the invisible but still discernible, / hyper invisible but still discernible. The three parts of time are parts of that identity of forever nature. Now there is too. What if those names go together? So that's another reason plural is pantheism. But it's about how it is functional. We have to get the name and we couldn't agree because when you're making a name, now you're speaking about the invisible but still discernible. For example, a subject or a name, in other words, and that all the parts of speech are about the invisible but still discernible. Excuse me. But why and how we need to have to appreciate more than one word for a verb. It comes with means to discern the hyper invisible but still discernible too. That same body binding three parts of time. That same body binding cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall / S, water in its elements, gases in its elements, positive or negative, no. Nature communicates about positive. Nature shows us and has been showing us to discern the difference between criminal insidiousness, natures of peace, and hyper peace. Nature shows us a special difference. This is what Allah. Alpha longs, long alpha's high. See alpha in the word alphabet. Juxtapose. Energy C, your C. Consciousness is high. Rises / raises, C's tell. Discern how M is the middle letter of the English language, the 13th letter. And A A stands for alpha. Simultaneously, that letter spells a word, and that word spells a sentence. There are proofs that, in other words, and then so after M is N, which is simultaneously three ways value. One of the reasons the three parts of time are bound is because the rest of Allah's complete identity, the rest of what Jesus' name says to juxtapose, it's too great, too finite, and with active relativity that we could only accord with one way, /s. It creates ways out of nowhere when we do that. It reveals evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere, including where and how we are fact, cheap natures, quality aspects of nature. There's a difference between making criminal insidious natures of positives out of negatives, no. And they have been, of course, they are manifest at A through Z, as the breaching method knew they would be. And roles have only been remembered, though. And it hides behind and through that. It never stopped being collusion /s. Right through world wars, psychiatry. They're putting fake transcripts there. Their family members are involved with all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders, predicate acts methods, collusions with uses of like tricks with phones. Then they just fake phone transcripts. Interagencies have roles with triages. They are sick. Wound up the Connecticut corrections offices and judicial branch offices. They were used remotely by the whole bunch of countries at the same time, including Saudi Arabia. Like with these fake, I never had a word of conversation with that older Mendez police brother or any other police there at the police station when they put him on too. And these are people involved with the O'Neill too, and with the Whiting forensics, with wire crimes, and with federal evidences crimes, drugs crimes, medicines crimes, psychiatry's tactically delusions wrought too, replacing what our founders declassified. Again, we were not supposed to. Our founders had to counter-extort everyone. That was the plan. Counter-extort key people at the same time between, north and south, but inside more than 13 colonies. They had to counter-extort key people and force everyone out. Everyone was too much tortured, extorted, in fact, human nature enslaved, therefore physically, to do anything about, to try to break any of the parts of the torture, extortion, slavery roles. Otherwise, sensing anyone trying to break out any part, and it was adapted to. That's what our founders had to force people counter-extorted to overcome. So that they are being used to sense for the breaching method, maintain self-value collusions non-distinctly with campuses A through Z. Therefore, self-value using how distinctly each campus is better or worse. It's on a scale that's read by, with the exceptions, as collusions with the breaching method. That which has collusions that could have been discerned and could still be discerned, right with the syntax inside the school book depository associated with any. You guys aren't capable of proper fact, cheap nature, quality, aspects, nature, with blame too. Ooh. Okay, thank you, babe. Have a great night, people.